Well, the reason we do it is to show, so our very smart pupils who do well in the local competition can see what good looks like on the world stage, and so that they can be inspired and learn a bit more about linguistics, which is not really about learning languages, but learning about how languages work, and has all sorts of interesting applications in the world of security and coding and data analysis. So that's what it's about, really.
A step beyond understanding.
Yeah, and also about making friendships around the world. And lots of those pupils I've seen go on to do very well in the field of linguistics later. So it's quite inspiring, really, to be involved with.
It sounds incredibly complicated, especially to somebody like me with absolutely
me.
no linguistic capabilities. But, I mean, how does the Isle of Man fare on that world stage? Have you found it's, a good faring?
We've improved year on year, our performance. It's like anything else. When we first started, we didn't know quite what it was all about. And like anything else, any kind of competition like this, you need a bit of experience. I think Nathan's the person to ask, really, because he did quite well last year.
And that you went to Prague.
Yes. So
tell us about that.
In Prague, the competition consisted of about 5 questions, and for me, I found that I was able probably to do quite well on 2 or 3, and the other 2 or 3 were more difficult. And I think that was across the board, but obviously the competitors from other nations were able to progress a little bit further in those questions.
To be fair, the top competitors from the US and Russia, they train really hard for this. They take it really seriously, to the extent that, I remember when Taiwan won gold medal, that was front page news in Taiwan. They really put a lot of resources into it. So. Yeah.
In terms of that experience last year, obviously you did quite well. You saw your areas for improvement. Is that how you've altered your training this year?
Yes, exactly. So this year I'm really focusing on how I answer the question, because sometimes it's just not enough to know the answer. You have to convey it in a good manner. So making sure that you convey all of the grammatical rules and that type of thing. So that's really important.
And also, we mustn't overlook Alex here, of course, who's going into this for the first time. Is that daunting or exciting?
Well, it's both, really. So, it sort of started off with an in-school competition, and sort of went to it not even knowing that it would end up in Korea. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting, because, I've come from, mostly doing sort of maths and science, but I also learned German. So that's sort of how I heard about it. So I did it, and then I was like, oh, I'm through to the next one. So then, and then obviously I think, because a lot of the stuff we do is quite analytical and sort of analysing the patterns in languages and that sort of thing, I think the maths has really helped there. And also knowing German, it got quite complex grammar itself. So,
and is it just German, or do you speak as many languages as possible? Does that give you an advantage?
Well, I do a bit of sort of computer programming, so that's another, a completely different type of language, but
skills are the same in this sense, because it's not about being fluent in the language or expressing yourself well or being poetic. It's about understanding. It's the scientific side of language.
You say it like it. I mean, it's difficult to believe that really coding is its own language now. I mean, certainly to somebody of my age. But I mean, what are you expecting to be your biggest challenges this year?
Well,
I mean, to be fair, our real aim is to get an honourable mention. I think that's where we're looking this year, is to get onto the top 50% list and see if we can, push for maybe medals and things. But that's a long.
I think it's incredibly tough. The competition is so hard. The other students that we meet, there's some absolutely amazing people. I remember the first time I went to the competition, and I said, from the Isle of Man, and one of the American team just reeled off all these facts about the Isle of Man. He said, oh yes, Revestment Act 1765, and they're very, very brainy people.
Yes.
So,
Well, absolute best of luck. Heading out to South Korea. When do you leave?
27th of July.
Best of luck from everybody here. You'll have to let us know how it goes, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much
you
for
very
joining
much.
us this
Good luck.
morning.